Welcome to the narcissism analysis on Micah and Irina. So far, Micah has built a strong connection with two men in the dating pods, Kwame and Paul. Kwame made it clear that he wanted to be with Micah, and in response, she gave him the impression that they were on the cusp of being together, with her saying that she was really falling for him and downplaying her connection with Paul. But then, the next time Micah talked to Paul, they agreed that they wanted to be together. So now, Micah has to break up with Kwame after raising his hopes.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is a new day. I feel refreshed. How about you?
My day's been good. I feel like we have both been each other's favorite person through a lot of this.
Yes.
And I wouldn't want it any other way.
This is an odd way to start a breakup with somebody. Of course, there's the school of thought that you should try to soften the blow, but telling Kwame that they've been each other's favourite person and she wouldn't have it any other way will have the opposite effect, in continuing to give him the wrong impression. It's not softening the blow, it's building him up for an even bigger fall, and it indicates a lack of emotional empathy. Non-narcissists are generally guided by their empathy away from doing things which hurt others like this. Of course, they're human, so sometimes they'll make mistakes and put their foot in their mouth, or act poorly, which is why we shouldn't judge somebody on any individual situation. But with Micah, we're seeing a repeated and sustained pattern of behaviours like this that demonstrate a lack of empathy. Notice her demeanour and lack of concern for what she's about to do, which is devastating somebody she supposedly cares about and has led to believe that they're going to be together. She's smiling and even starts to laugh as she says favourite person.
I feel so strongly about you as a person. But I feel like that maybe the slow burn is how it's supposed to go. I think that we should explore other connections.
Micah obviously doesn't think she owes Kwame an explanation of why everything's changed since the last time they spoke, where she was telling him how she was really falling for him, so he'd better not go falling for anyone else, and how her connection with Paul wasn't on their level at all. There's no sign of embarrassment or guilt for this volte-face, and no concern how it must really hurt the person she just said she feels so strongly for. This shows a lack of accountability and a lack of emotional empathy. Remember that Micah is somebody who considers herself to be an empath.
I think that we should explore other connections.
The information is such a shock to Kwame that it takes him a long time to process it.
Okay, cool. That works for me. Well, thank you for taking your time, for listening. It was fantastic getting to know you, and I hope that works out for you to the best of your ability. I truly wish you the most luck. Thank you for being transparent with me. And hey, it's been real. Have a great rest of your night, okay?
Okay.
Cool. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
So Kwame manages to hold his emotions together, for now at least, putting on a brave face and being polite to Micah. He thanks her for listening, says it was fantastic getting to know her, that he hopes everything works out for her, and to have a good night. Micah gives a sulky, monosyllabic response, K. On hearing this, Kwame still tries to be nice and tells Micah to have a good night. Micah responds with another sulky monosyllabic response, bye. So why is Micah sulking, given that Kwame responded in what you might think was the best possible way, not getting noticeably angry or upset, and instead being polite and conciliatory? The answer is that although this would be a good reaction for a non-narcissist to receive, to a narcissist, this is very far from the ideal reaction. Remember that a narcissist's lifeblood is fuel, which is the emotional reaction of others towards them. It's what powers them, and they crave it. And remember that it's not just a positive reaction that narcissists want. For example, somebody looking at them in awe and telling them how great they are. But it's also a negative reaction. For example, a former partner breaking down in tears and saying how they can't live without the narcissist. Both of these things signal that the narcissist is brilliant and powerful enough to elicit such an emotional reaction in others. In fact, negative emotions are actually better for a narcissist, because creating a positive response is quite common and easier to do. But being able to make somebody break down and cry tears of despair is the pinnacle of controlling them, and gives a narcissist an enormous amount of fuel. Here, Micah will have been expecting a really negative emotional response from Kwame. Confusion, anger, hurt, possibly even hatred, maybe some tears. This is all great for a narcissist. But instead, she got a polite, almost formal response. Now there would still be some fuel in there for her, because he said things like, "It was fantastic getting to know her," but it's nowhere near what she would have been expecting. H.G. Tudor, who's a self-aware narcissist, has an analogy for this type of situation to help non-narcissists understand what it feels like. Imagine that your friend invited you to a dinner party at their house, promising a 5-course meal prepared by a top chef, fantastic wine, and interesting people there. You're looking forward to this for weeks. You get all dressed up, you're starving hungry ready for the meal, and when you ring your friend's doorbell, they open the door in their pajamas and tell you that the party was cancelled and that they must have completely forgotten to tell you. But come on in, they'll give you a cookie instead. Imagine your disappointment and deflation on hearing this. That is why Micah is sulking here. Kwame seemingly being alright with losing her is depriving her of fuel, and therefore telling her that she isn't as brilliant as she thought she was. Subconsciously, it's telling her that she isn't powerful enough to control Kwame as much as she thought, and so she asserts control over him by essentially subjecting him to a present silent treatment, saying the minimum she possibly can in the situation, K and bye, in response to his friendly and polite comments. As you might imagine, her reaction is an enormous red flag. Firstly, it shows a hypersensitivity to a threat to her control, and a manipulative reaction to that threat by implementing a silent treatment. She shows a lack of boundaries and a sense of entitlement. It's rude and childish to behave like this when somebody is being polite and nice to you, even in the face of being lied to and then broken up with in this manner. It shows a lack of accountability. She just broke up with somebody and then can't even bring herself to be cordial with them at the end. She's haughty. She acts like she's the wronged party here. She shows a complete absence of emotional empathy, not making any attempt to see if Kwame's actually alright after this, or giving any level of emotional support, but instead making him feel even worse by not engaging with him.
That's kind of fucked up, isn't it? I can't be the only one that thinks that. It's kind of fucked up. I'm just having a tough time.
So of course, Kwame is hurt, but was just putting a brave face on it. Micah enters the women's living area.
Irina. Wake up and talk to me. It was him. Oh, Kwame. Where'd I go? I ended it.
For most people, breaking up with someone they care about is a thoroughly unpleasant experience that has them shaken up for quite some time afterwards. But here you can see the absence of emotional empathy as Micah smiles and laughs about breaking up with Kwame to Irina.
Okay, what happened?
It was bad because not because he reacted, just because like he didn't. It was very weird. Like I wasn't expecting it to like be like that. Like not in a bad way. Like he's like, okay, I wish you the best. Like I gotta go, bye.
He literally wanted to marry you like yesterday.
So as discussed earlier, Micah was expecting a very different reaction to the one Kwame gave. We now get some information that the man Micah has agreed to move forwards with, Paul, is currently in one of the other dating pods, breaking up with his other connection, Amber.
So how is Paul still in there with Amber? He's supposed to be ending it with her right now.
Wait, this is what?
Ending it with Amber.
We're shown the footage of Paul breaking up with Amber, which I'll skip because my focus is on analysing Micah and Irina. Suffice it to say that it's in stark contrast to Micah's breakup with Kwame. Paul is nervous, upset, stumbling over his words, trying to show understanding and apologetic. Then afterwards he shows concern and tries to come to terms with what he did. Back to Micah and Irina.
Wait, why is it taking so long to end it with Amber?
I know, I'm really about to freak out. It's been a half hour. Wow, that's really bad. It took me 2 seconds to end it with Kwame. Dude, what the fuck is going on in that pod?
Narcissists do not like to be kept waiting. Their sense of entitlement means that they expect other people to do their bidding immediately. Having to wait around wounds them because it's depriving them of fuel, and it's a challenge to their sense of control. When another person is late or doesn't reply to a call or a message immediately, it's telling the narcissist that they aren't important enough for that person to drop everything else and cater to their needs instead. A narcissist's reaction to being wounded is the ignition of their fury, which is done to prompt the narcissist into doing something to regain control of the situation. We can clearly see this fury appearing in Micah. She's visibly annoyed, unable to sit still, complaining and swearing. We see a degree of paranoia starting to shine through, in thinking something's gone horribly wrong and Paul may be leaving her. This paranoia comes from the narcissism's constant hypervigilance and scanning for threats to control. This is why sometimes a narcissist will accuse their partner of various things, such as having an affair, seemingly out of the blue. We see Micah's sense of entitlement in getting irritated that Paul isn't breaking up with Amber as quickly as she wants him to. She complains about Paul talking to Amber for half an hour by comparing it to her situation, saying, "It took me 2 seconds to end it with Kwame. Dude, what the fuck is going on in that pod?" This also demonstrates her lack of empathy. She doesn't show any embarrassment or concern that breaking up with somebody as quickly as she did may not have been a good thing, or recognise that perhaps taking half an hour to discuss things and make sure the other person is okay may be a more caring way to do things. We then see some more footage of Paul breaking up with Amber, which again I've skipped, and then we go back to Micah again.
I'm really having really bad anxiety right now. Yeah, I just got played like a fiddle.
Okay, what do you want to get back with Kwame?
Shut the fuck up, that's not the point.
Micah shows further paranoia, jumping to the rather extreme conclusion that she just got played like a fiddle. The footage seems to skip forward slightly, and we see Irina showing her usual lack of tact, saying, "Okay, what, do you want to get back with Kwame?" Like all narcissists, Irina doesn't have emotional empathy guiding her actions, but she also lacks cognitive empathy, which is the ability to intellectually see things from other people's perspective and think through how her actions will affect others. She can't see that saying this is not appropriate for the situation and will not be taken well. Her attitude of, "Well, it's not working out with Paul, time to go back with Kwame," is a good illustration of how narcissists subconsciously view people as objects to provide the things they want. Narcissists don't have the ability to form a genuine emotional connection with others because of their lack of emotional empathy. Some narcissists make it appear as if they love somebody or have a strong bond with them, but it's just a manipulation. People are only valued for what they can bring to the narcissist, in the same way that non-narcissists would value an appliance, like a toaster or a washing machine. This is why narcissists are able to callously discard somebody from their life such as a friend, a family member, or their partner, as soon as something better comes along. They have no emotional connection binding them. So to Irina, it makes perfect sense to immediately go back to Kwame if it doesn't work out with Paul. They're both appliances that would provide fuel and control. And it may be the case that Micah would go straight back to Kwame if Paul left her at this point. But right now, Micah is fixated on the wounding that she's receiving, and the looming threat to control that she believes is coming her way. And Irina's tactless comment threatens her sense of control. Micah erupts with a brief flash of heated fury, fairly unusual for her, as she's normally able to keep a lid on this. Shut the fuck up, that's not the point. It's a direct assertion of control over Irina. This gives us a glimpse of how a situation can escalate very quickly between two narcissists.
Why the fuck would they still be in there?
You should walk in there and be like, what the fuck, Paul?
I'd usually assume that somebody was joking in this situation, but based on her behaviour throughout the series, I can really imagine Irina doing something like this. Of course, this would show a lack of boundaries, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability, and a lack of empathy, but we'll give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that she's joking. In the meantime, Paul has finished breaking up with Amber, who did not take it well. Amber enters the women's living area. Apologies, this was all meant to be in the same video, but I kept getting copyright blocks from Netflix, so this will continue in the next video. Thanks for listening.